And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, today joined by, and as I normally am joined by on Thursdays, by Aaron Larsoul. We decided to hold off on this one and have the rare post-game conversation, which, you know, the Lakers just lost their fourth straight and the vibes are not exactly immaculate.
So now I have to pop in.
And now, Aaron, you are going to have to answer for the Lakers' sins. So I apologize in advance for the questions that I'm going to have for you for a nice big helping of unnamed cognac. Although I think that's probably tequila. If you have ice in it, I'm guessing.
No, this is a whiskey and a little bit of just a little splash of ginger.
Ooh, whiskey gingers are good.
Yeah,
I love whiskey ginger.
I wanted to make sure that I was lucid and present for this fine episode of the Lakers Lounge. So I decided to start on these a little earlier because I've been drinking since this afternoon. So I decided to go with this instead of the straight Hennessy, which is what I would normally do. Excuse me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Use that promo code LA Lounge to get $100 back in your first deposit match. Use again that promo code LA Lounge. Terms and conditions apply. See sleeper.com/terms/referrals for details, and also play responsibly. So we will be talking about them here in a second, and we will get some picks in for tomorrow's action as well as we head off into the holiday weekend.
If you had the over on Anthony Davis stuff this evening, you probably did pretty well.
Quite well. Would have done a little bit better if the Lakers kept passing him.
Maybe the under on D'Lo.
That's a good bet. I had somebody text me like over under for points for D'Lo. What would you set it at? And I'm like,
It was not an incredible back-to-back for D'Lo offensively, scoring wise.
The Lakers lose tonight to the Minnesota Timberwolves in a game that felt very winnable up until, I would say, the last 7 or 8 minutes of it. The final here was 118-111. I think it is kind of indicative of the caliber of teams here, that final score there without LeBron. If you would have told me going into this game the Lakers lost by like 7 or 8 points in Minnesota, second night of a back-to-back without LeBron, and they lose by 7, I'd say that tracks.
Yeah, I believe, I think I looked before the game, and I believe Minnesota were 8.5 point favorites. And this is kind of where the game mostly hung, is around 5 to 8 to 9 in Minnesota's favor. The Lakers tied it at 70, and then Minnesota went on a run. Minnesota got it up to, I think, as much as 15 or so at one point. But kind of the whole night, it felt like the Lakers were losing by about 5 or 7, and it felt like the Lakers were losing by 15 because they were just kind of getting outplayed. So yeah, I think you're right on balance. A 7-point loss is pretty fair for how the game went, I would say. It feels about right.
Yeah, and so like that's kind of where I wanted to, like, I need to make sure to maintain like context in this, right? Look, I think between the two games, the game that I was a lot more frustrated by was last night's game. Clearly, right, where Raj, when Raj loses his effing mind in the same way, in the way that he did last night, I think that is the game that I'm obviously going to have a lot bigger problems with. But that said, I think some of the same, like, even while I acknowledge that I didn't think the Lakers were going to, win this game, there were some like similar problems that keep popping up that I find myself annoyed with. Like, when I was a coach, the thing that would piss me off more than anything else that a player could possibly do is keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over again, right? Because what that indicates is that player doesn't think it's a mistake. And or it indicates that like I am doing a poor job on my end of communicating that the thing that they are doing is a mistake, right? And that is the thing. That's where I've arrived here with Darvin Ham, where I don't think some of these things that are frustrating me, I don't think he sees them as mistakes. So if that is the case, then what am I supposed to do with that? Like he and I just see the sport differently. And whether it's going, sitting Austin in the fourth quarter tonight, or the 5-out offense, or relying as much as he would prefer to rely on guards, like, at some point you do have to start to acknowledge, all right, he and I just don't see eye to eye on this one, right? It's kind of like Frank Vogel when he was coaching and he kept relying on Avery Bradley. At a certain point, I would have to sit there and say, all right, he sees something in Avery Bradley that I just do not.
Yeah.
And I have to just like accept it now. But the problem with accepting it is, in this, like with Frank, him playing Avery Bradley a little bit too much here and there, that's like a minor problem that didn't wind up getting in the way of that team reaching the pinnacle that it was able to reach that year. They won a championship that year. But
Yeah.
here with Darvin Ham, the way that he sees the game and the disagreements that I have with the way that he sees the game, they feel a lot more foundational, and they feel like the kind of thing that will hold this team back from the pinnacle that I think this team is capable of reaching. And so that's why, like, today on the show, we're going to talk about Darvin. We're going to talk more about D'Angelo Russell because we have to, and then we're going to wrap with Rui Hachimura stuff. But like starting here with Darvin, that's the part of all of this that I think is driving me the most insane. Is it's the same effing thing that I find myself confused by.
So let me put. I think what you're saying is largely fair, but let me put this caveat on it: is that whether it's Frank, Darvin, or Luke Walton, or Phil Jackson, or Greg Popovich, or Eric Spoelstra, or Steve Kerr, or Red Auerbach, or whoever, coaches have to deal with a lot more, or not have to deal with. There's a lot more that goes into coaches' decision making than what we as fans see. Right
Oh my
there.
God, you guys are hearing it here first. Rob Pelinka is telling Darvin Ham to play D'Angelo
Easy
Russell to keep
killer.
up his trade value.
Easy killer. Hold on, let me get a little sip here. If I shake this, can you guys hear the ice in it? I told you I went ice earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it's more complicated than just let me see what happens on the floor during games. There are politics that are involved, whether that comes from the front office. I'm not saying that comes from the front office, but in like conceptually that can come from the front office. That can be interpersonal dynamics with different players on the roster. It can be between players and assistant coaches, players and the head coach. All of those things come into play. There are politics and everything. So it's not as simple. And, as you said, there are things you're not seeing, right? These guys are seeing. NBA teams don't barely practice, but when they do practice, we are not seeing that. I get to see some of it, but not all. I don't get to see all of it either. So there's more to it than just everybody on the floor, like in the moment and what it looks like. But I have found some of the decisions confusing also. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean
No.
Darvin's wrong. But to be fair to the point you're making, I have found some of the decisions confusing. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the Lakers' record would be any different if they were on the Anthony Irwin plan or the Aaron Larsoul plan. But I have found some decisions questionable. To be fair to Darvin, though, you're going to say that about literally every coach. But the points you're making are not unfair.
So one such thing that I find myself bumping up against here, so Brandon Owameng is how I'm guessing how I'm supposed to say her name. Why is D'Lo getting more minutes than Reaves? And then SimCity, who I believe is the same SimCity from our All Access Lakers playback events or whatever streams, says that according to Jovan, and I it's such an insane quote that I had to go to Twitter to confirm that it's real. Jovan Buha, according to Jovan, Darvin Ham said post game that he prefers to keep Austin Reaves in the 27-28 minute range as it keeps him fresh and efficient. And it's like, look, man, that's a new policy.
No, I just disagree with it, and I don't know where. As far as I know, and you see me on my phone, like you see me. I'm sorry, but this it can be what a post game, but this is one of the things that I'm talking about. People are texting me about people in the organization, and you know what? I'll leave it at that. But if as far as I know, if that is a policy for Austin, I don't know where. How about this? If that's a policy for Austin, I don't know where that's coming from.
It's news to me.
It can be a Darvin preference, and maybe there are things that we are not privy to. Maybe Austin and Darvin have had this conversation, or maybe the training staff, the strength and conditioning staff, the medical staff have had this conversation with Darvin. Not to my knowledge, but it's possible. So I want to acknowledge that it's possible. But I will tell you this: if that is I don't think that's like a company mandate, that's like a team-wide policy for him. I don't believe
that hasn't been the policy to this point. And
all I'm saying is I don't believe so.
Well,
I don't know, but I don't believe so. And if it was, I would guess I would have heard it.
We are now 3 years into the Austin Reaves' career. At no point has 20 to 28 minutes been a conversation that has ever been had. At no point have I ever watched Austin play at the end of a game and said, yeah, that guy doesn't have legs because of how much he has played to this point. If he has exceeded 27 to 28 minutes, this is like a new, and again, so I think a lot of times fans, when their team falls short of their expectations, will a little too quickly jump to coaching because it's a lot easier to blame a coach, and it's a lot easier to fire
one person as opposed to 15.
Yeah, and then like people, generally speaking, don't care as much about a coach as they care about their favorite player or their favorite players, right? So it's a lot easier to get angry at a coach and say the coach sucks than it is to say that maybe their favorite players might not be playing very well. But in this case here, there's all of this noise and there's all of this frustration with Darvin Ham. And at no point do I find myself really feeling the need to go out of my way to combat that criticism. If anything, I feel like I have my critiques. I have my questions. And again, I want to be absolutely clear. When I have critiques about coaching, just like when I have critiques about players, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that I think I would be better or I think I know more about. No, I am just as likely to converse Darvin Ham in a basketball conversation as I am to guard LeBron James. These people, there's a lot more that goes, like Aaron just said, there's a lot more that goes into every single conversation made or every single decision made about a team than you or I. You and I, Aaron, we talk an hour a week or so on average about basketball, right? And then we'll text
on the air
and
on the
air. But these guys, it is hours and hours and hours and hours of research and data that goes into the decisions that they make. So if for some reason all of that data, what farts out on the other end of all of that data is that Austin needs to play less, then okay, but I need more than I need to see some of that data. I need to see anything to this point that would indicate that is the case, because the last couple games late in these fourth quarters, Austin has sat for a random minute the other day. Tonight he sits for 3 or 4 minutes. And in the time that Austin is away from the court and somebody else is out there, the lead grows to the point where, like, when Austin comes back in, you may as well have not brought him back in, right? Tonight, he sat for 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. When he went out, it was like a 4 or 5 point game. He comes back in, and it's an 11-point game with 4 minutes to go. That's a big ask for somebody. And at that point, the game's been lost.
I mean, especially without LeBron.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. It's the Austin thing. It's the reliance on D'Lo when he hasn't had it for like all of December. It's the reliance on Taurean Prince when every time Rui gets an opportunity, I feel like he shows that he should probably be getting more of an opportunity. It's playing Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood only together, basically, and never having Christian Hayes out there surrounded by wings, or Christian Wood surrounded by wings. The only guy who ever plays by himself out there is Jackson Hayes, who I believe is the lesser player between him and Christian Wood. Like, there's just so much going on here, and like the part of it that I find myself the most frustrated with is the type of basketball that won the Lakers this in-season tournament. That stupid banner is flying in Crypto Arena because of a certain brand of basketball. I haven't seen a return to that basketball since they won it. Like, it hasn't happened. the blitzing, the pre-rotations, the getting out in transition, the reliance on wings, like that is just it like we saw it. It was beautiful. It was mesmerizing. And then it was taken away.
So you and I talked about this on Tuesday, and we've talked about it on All Access Lakers a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really think that most of that, I do think there was a piece of LeBron, more so than AD. I think there was a piece of LeBron putting his foot on the gas for the in-season tournament. But it wasn't just the in-season tournament games. Like, the Lakers were good during that span, because remember, in November it was Tuesday, Friday, for the in-season tournament games. But the Lakers were playing other games and were good during that stretch. It wasn't like we care during these games and we don't care during the other games. But I do think there was something to LeBron caring. But honestly, I do, and I said this on the Lounge here Tuesday. The Lakers had a pretty easy path. The teams the Lakers were playing, like, I think that has a lot to do with it. The Lakers did, and again, it's like no fault of the Lakers, right? You can only play who's on your schedule. But
I mean, the Lakers.
This was not
the juggernaut that is the San Antonio Spurs, and they have only lost to the juggernaut that is the Dallas Mavericks on the second night of a back-to-back without Kyrie.
The Mavs are good, though. The Mavs are good. My point
without
is,
Kyrie on the second night of a back-to-back. The
my
Chicago Bulls are a juggernaut. Like
the Bulls have been playing. I'm not saying they're a juggernaut. You're trying. You're you know what? I'm gonna leave Cooper alone. But that's an inside joke. But I'm gonna leave Cooper alone. My point is to say that, like, yes, I do think LeBron cared about winning the first in-season tournament and put his foot down. And I do think in good ways and in not so good ways, the rest of the guys take their cues kind of emotionally and effort-wise, et cetera, from LeBron. And I think there has to be times where, because LeBron can't do it every night. And so when LeBron doesn't do it, I think the rest of the guys have to pick LeBron up instead of like looking to him for every piece of motivation every night, because he just can't. He's in year 21. But I do think an underrated piece of this is the teams that the Lakers played in the tournament in aggregate just weren't any good. They were not like Memphis like is bad.
In the group, sure.
Portland is bad. Like, there's not like the Lakers were playing teams at that time that were not good about, like, and then when you get to the semifinals and the finals, like, Phoenix is okay. Phoenix has been missing everybody, and Phoenix is fine-ish. They just lost to Portland. And then when you get to Vegas, and you're playing
well when the Lakers
the Pelicans are decent. The Pelicans are decent, and Indy's fallen off the map also since the in-season tournament.
Everybody has
their offense is really good. They're not going to stop anybody.
Yeah,
but those two teams are not able to get to the Lakers level, and they're not able to get to that championship level that LeBron and AD can get to. So those are not teams that know when LeBron and AD put their foot down and go on the gas and are trying to win something. Those are not teams that are accustomed to playing that level of basketball. And the Lakers beat the shit out of both of them because of that. So I think that some of it's random. I think some of it is that LeBron specifically was trying to prove a point. And I think that they just played bad teams. And now they're playing better teams. And maybe we're getting a more accurate level of who the Lakers actually are. I understand that it's frustrating to you and to Raj specifically.
Can I ask
because
you though, Aaron,
do see that level that you can get to?
Well, can I ask you though, in watching those games and the ways that the Lakers won those games, right? You're telling me you didn't see a different brand of basketball, a different identity in the ones that they won than they have played to this point? Because if you aren't seeing that, then like you and
I did. The Lakers played bigger.
The same games.
No. I did see that.
Not the Lakers just better played, though, but not just better though, but like
no, better, not better,
okay,
bigger.
Okay,
the Lakers played bigger. Yeah. And you know what's happened since then? Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes are not two of the best 10 or 11 guys that the Lakers have. The two of them have been awful. Well, so do you stick with them just to, and how bad Jackson was terrible tonight? Do you stick with them just because it's the identity of being bigger?
Well, but it's not. But it wasn't just bigger on the interior, right? It was bigger. Like Max Christie was getting minutes. You had, Rui was a bigger part of the rotation there. It was a bigger team on the perimeter. Aaron, when I talked to John Krasinski on the Wolves preview pod, which again, I really hope you guys check out. It's one of the better episodes that we've done.
It was good, yeah.
But like when we were talking about and previewing this game, he was saying that like both of these teams can be huge on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, Gabe wasn't available for this one, but that would have made
not gonna make you any bigger on the perimeter. Gabe ain't even my size.
Lane, I'm telling you, he says his name. He like specifically told me before we went. I asked him like, "Is there any special way that you pronounce your name?" He said, "No, I say it just like the actor." But so I talked to Jim from The Office, and he is apparently a huge Wolves fan. But no, like it's the wing oriented identity. It's the pre-rotations. Like the Lakers went from pre-rotating and flying all over the court to playing a shit ton of zone. Like that wasn't a part of their approach in that in-season tournament. I don't know where that came from all out of nowhere. And again, like you and I talked, Aaron, about like the notion of getting reps in regular season games versus trying to win like an in-season tournament knockout game, right? And I do think like all of this zone that they're playing is to get reps. But the thing is, in this Western Conference, you can't just focus on getting reps. At some point, you need to win these winnable games. Tonight was a winnable game. Both of the San Antonio Spurs games were winnable games. Chicago was a winnable game. The Dallas game after the in-season tournament, when you're more rested, was a winnable game. And they continue to just kind of like fart away these games. And like that's just it calls to question the priorities of this coaching staff and of this team. And again, it's just not something that I agree with. I understand wanting to get various guys and various combinations reps, but at some point you do need to get back to the identity, throw that 106-mile-an-hour fastball if you can to win games. Like no baseball has a longer season. It's not like when the Yankees had Mariano Rivera to close out games, they were like throwing their left fielder out there just to see what he could do at the end of them.
It
wasn't Bernie Williams to close those games. It was Mariano freaking Rivera.
So I do think it's complicated, right? Like I this is one of those things, like the NBA is one of those things where life comes at you fast, right? Like the Lakers are 15-10 and the 4 seed is the 5 seed and are feeling pretty good and feel like you have some things figured out. And then Cam falls off the map, D'Lo falls off the map, Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood fall off the map. And
We're going to talk about
And
D'Lo
Gabe
here.
comes back, right? And then you're like, okay, wait, now what is so? Here's a fair question to ask. Like, so there's two things here. Everybody in the chat and everybody, on Twitter and whatever about you want to get rid of him. Okay, this is kind of like the All-Star game where you say, so and so got snubbed. Okay, well, who are you removing then? You don't just get to add somebody and not take somebody out. So, like, Darvin's first of all not going anywhere. But if you want him gone, for whom? Like, who is just sitting out there that you want? So
Well, you want me to answer it?
Please. If you say Doc Rivers, I am ripping out my Ethernet.
No, it's not for anybody outside of the organization. It's Phil Handy.
Okay, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm a big fan of Phil's. So I will say that. I am a big fan of Phil's. But to be fair, Phil's never done it. So in some respects, you're guessing again. I know Darvin hadn't. So in some respects, you're guessing again.
Well, here's
I will say this. I'm a big fan.
By the way, I want to be absolutely clear here. I am not saying fire Darvin Ham right now.
He won't be.
I think there are things that he and I clearly disagree with, and I think there are like legitimate concerns now at this point with him as a head coach. But I don't think he should be fired. I do think like I am now finding myself wondering like what it would take to start to have that conversation, like would the Lakers have to lose 7 straight, would they have to lose, would they have to be like out of play-in positioning for us to start to have that conversation? I think that's an interesting one that, again, I'm not really willing to entertain because I don't think it's going to get there. But if Darvin, like if Rob Pelinka like wandered into my house right now, I would.
What do you watch? What are you going to sit down and watch with him on the 85 in the foyer? What are you going to put on for him?
Darvin Ham coaching tape. But no, I would.
Are you gonna cook him something? Like, how are you welcoming Rob into your home? I want to hear this.
Well, for one thing, I'd be really nervous because it's like, man, this guy like found me after everything I said about
At this point, you are certain there's some Secret Service,
oh my God,
or FBI or CIA involvement.
The Lakers have enough like pull in to make it look like an accident is the only thing that I would say. But like, no, if Rob like wandered into my office right now, sat down right next to me, and we were to have a conversation about it, right? And he was like, look, this is something that we're thinking about doing. Where should we go next? I would probably say, again, before I mentioned Doc Rivers, before I mentioned Mike Budenholzer, before I mentioned just about any other coach that is out there and available to be hired as a head coach right now, I would say, like, I would give Phil Handy a shot at it because I know LeBron would buy into it. And also, I think Phil Handy, like, you weren't paying like as close attention to the Lakers as I was back when this happened. But when Bernie Bickerstaff took over for Mike Brown, he went like 6-0. And he basically said, like, they asked him, like, what's your coaching approach here? Like, how are you going to handle the situation? How are you going to be like different enough from Mike Brown, yet also effective enough to maintain like the focus of this team? And he basically said, like, I'm not going to overthink this. Like, I have Kobe, I have Nash.
This is like 2008, 2009.
This was like this was the Dwightmare year. Like this was.
Oh, this was 2012. Like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Like so the Lakers fired Mike Brown and Bernie Bickerstaff took Bernie Bickerstaff took over and again he basically said, like, I'm going to get out of their way. Like, I trust these guys. These guys have all been playing basketball for a really, really long time. I'm going to get out of their way. And I kind of feel like that would be the approach Phil Handy would take here, where like he's a skills guy. And I think at the end of the day, he's really going to trust his players. and not like over regimen like the way that they are. He wants them playing offense. I think he would ditch the five out offense, for example, just like Bickerstaff ditched the Princeton when he took over for Brown. I like that is where I would go. Not saying I'm there, but that is where I would go if Rob asked me.
Wait, is that the Dwight Mayer year? Wasn't D'Antoni the Dwight Mayer year?
Yeah, it was. So that was an insane season. So they brought Bickerstaff. He was the interim, and he goes like 5-0 or 6-0 or something like that. I think to this point he is still like in terms of just winning percentage, the greatest Lakers coach ever.
Better than 100%. That sounds pretty
good. And then that was a year. So that was a year though that like it was between Phil and D'Antoni. Phil thought he had it. And then like at midnight one night, it gets announced or it gets leaked that they were going to hire D'Antoni instead of Phil. And you know, you're obviously really close with Jeannie. It's like she says to this day, that's one of like the lower moments in her like Lakers life, because she was thinking that, you know, Phil was going to be back and he was going to fix everything. And then Mike shows up and he just adds to the stresses that and
then we get the, was it Sports Illustrated, the picture of Kobe and Dwight pretending like they were Nash and
Dwight. That was at the beginning of the season.
No. There was the picture of them in like the training
in the locker room.
Yeah.
In the training room. Yeah. So anyway, but I, with Darvin, you know, he hasn't challenged a call in like a month. He waits way too long on his timeouts. His rotations to me are concerned. Like, again, it's easy. I think it's far too easy to knock coaching in professional sports.
Yes.
But I also think he makes it very easy to knock his coaching.
So just as an exercise here, and again, I'm not like here trying to cape for Darvin, because I have some issues also. But do you have a like definitive starting lineup? Do you have a definitive closing lineup?
I think it's crazy that the Lakers essentially haven't played the 4-man combination that got them to the Western Conference.
Okay, fine. But answer the question. Because I don't know. I don't have I have some ideas, but I don't have like a 5-man group where I'm like, these dudes have to start and these dudes have to close.
I understand. Look, you and I both, right? We're on team start Prince at the start of the year, right?
Yes, we were.
I think now that it's kind of whatever.
But we were also on team D'Lo and Austin.
D'Lo less. I don't know.
You were not on team start D'Lo at the beginning of the year?
Oh no. Like starting D'Lo, yeah. But like we found out that D'Lo, Austin, and Prince is just not a good combination.
It has
right?
not. It did
not work so not far. A good combination.
It did not work.
And so like now I don't know. You've tried the other creative things. I would kind of simplify it down, and I would play the guys that got you to the Western Conference Finals. I would start them, you know.
I would start D'Lo, Austin, Vando, although he still doesn't look entirely right yet.
Still doesn't, no.
LeBron and AD, or Rui for Vando. That's what I would start. But the fact that there is like, we're going back and forth about this, and we're like, do you want to start D'Lo and Austin together? I don't know. Wait, should it be Vando? I don't know. Torian shot the ball well recently. So my point is, when teams have it figured out, like this is our group, right? This is who, you know, Denver starts Murray and KCP and MPJ and Aaron Gordon and Joker. And that's like, and they're just monsters, right? They just are the destroyer of worlds. And it doesn't matter what you do. That's what we do, right? We don't have to work. We don't have to think about it. Do they close with that? Usually, but like not. And like now, the good another here, I'm bringing up the Warriors again, but last year and the year before that, literally the best lineup on planet Earth was Steph, Clay, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond, and Looney. Last year and the year before. This year, it hasn't really worked. And Steve Kerr has been scrambling, trying to figure something out. So in Darvin's defense, like, if you and I can't say, like, how could you not play these 5 guys? I have some ideas, But I think we're being too hard on Darvin when we're like, it's so obvious. This is the answer. I have ideas, but I don't know that I have the answer either. The Lakers are in a strange place where, like, depth is good and bad, right? Like, the Lakers have 10 or 11 or 12 guys that are NBA guys. They're all NBA rotation players and should probably play. And so that depth that's a good thing. But what you really want is, this is our 5 or 6 or 7 guys. And then we have such good depth that if something happens with some of those guys, they can backfill and play. The Lakers have LeBron and AD, and then like 10 guys that all are like, yeah, they can play. Is tonight the night for them? Kind of. Is this the matchup for them? Maybe Austin is removed from that. But after Austin, like, Rui, yeah, but sometimes not. Vando, yeah, but not really offensively. D'Lo,
I still contend though that like the version of Rui that we've seen to this point in the season is not the version of Rui that we would see more often if the circumstances were better. But we do have to talk about D'Angelo Russell.
Well, let me answer this one question, because he brings up True School 007. Ask Aaron, what about timeouts and challenges? So that I agree with. I do not think that Darvin has done a great job with timeouts. You will hear me on All Access Lakers begging for timeouts 2 or 3 possessions before he calls them. Challenges are more complicated, but to be fair to the question, I do not think that Darvin, and that is obviously one metric for measuring coaching, and I do not think he's been great about
that. We have to talk about D'Angelo Russell again.
Do we?
Hold
on. Do I have time to go get another drink?
Go ahead. I'll.
You're gonna filibuster?
No, I can filibuster if you absolutely need to.
I got a little bit.
All right. So D'Angelo Russell in this one again struggled, and this is now the month of December has been a nightmare for him. He still managed to play 38 minutes. His numbers look a lot better than they actually were. 7 of 19 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3-point
range.
Made
shots at the end, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, the stakes were gone, and there's nobody on this planet better than D'Angelo Russell without stakes. 17 points is what he finished with, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. Managed to get 3 block shots, which is hilarious. Hope he took the over there. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and ban illustrious. This is
he's doing a lot. Yeah, he's doing a lot.
We're good here. So the D'Angelo Russell thing is it's tough because we are sitting here having this conversation on December 21st. D'Angelo Russell nothing can happen with D'Angelo Russell until January 15th.
Correct.
And nothing probably will happen with D'Angelo Russell until like February would be my guess. Late January, early February would be my guess. And so that gives you, upwards of a month or so where the Lakers need to win games, but D'Angelo Russell isn't playing at a level where he is going to help you win games. And the thing that concerns me the most with the way that D'Angelo Russell is playing is it's very clear. D'Angelo Russell, who is like one of the most confident people, I think, that you'll ever meet, right? Like he's a very confident human being outwardly. He is a very smart and emotionally intelligent person. I think he's a very self-aware person, away from the court and just in general. But there are times where, and he just clearly has lost all footing within this offense. Aaron, you had mentioned before that LeBron has basically like surveyed the land and taken note of the way that he is capable of playing, and he's kind of retaken the reins offensively, and that has had an impact.
I said I think LeBron has surveyed himself and found what he is.
I was going to give you
of.
more time because you've been like dying in the background. Are you okay?
No, it was not good.
The ginger ale, like the ginger ale hit your body, and you're like, wait a second, this isn't alcohol.
What is this? What is this non-alcohol and sugar? I do think, yeah, you're right. You've characterized it that correctly. I do think that some of the offensive creation load in ball handling, LeBron has usurped, I guess, from D'Lo, because I think LeBron has checked in with himself and seen what he's capable of and decided it's probably better for me to have the ball than D'Lo, which brings up the questions. Then what is D'Lo going to do?
To me, what D'Lo does there is, and that's the point of the pause. One, you caught me mid drink, which doesn't help. But
what is that? A little cab? What are you drinking?
Oh, just Pinot. That's usually my go-to.
Yeah, a little Pinot.
No, the thing that concerns me with D'Lo is that, like, he knew coming into the season he was going to be playing a bunch with LeBron. He knew coming into the season that, like, he was going to be playing a bunch with Austin, who was going to have more on-ball responsibilities. And it doesn't appear that he has done anything to make himself more comfortable off of the ball, whether it comes to shooting off of the move, whether it's catch and shoot, whether it's understanding where to catch and shoot, all of those things. Whether it's setting screens, like I would love to see a LeBron D'Lo inverted pick and roll. Haven't seen that yet this year. Haven't seen really any D'Lo and LeBron pick and rolls this year. Seen a ton with him and AD, and statistically speaking, those have been quite productive. But like we haven't seen D'Lo, find a way to coexist with LeBron in a productive manner. And that is, I think very concerning. And now we have reached a point where D'Lo is, has heard all of the noise as it pertains to the trade rumors and where he might wind up by the end of the season. And I think that has, legitimately and negatively impacted his play, both in terms of production and in terms of approach. And from what I have heard, it's impacted his standing in the locker room as well. So like it's a lot of stuff that is going on here with D'Lo. And I again, just like we talked about with Darvin, I don't think Darvin should or will be fired this season. But with Darvin, I do find myself wondering, all right, what would we have to see for there to be some like legitimate organizational concern? And I think with D'Lo, that already exists. But what would we have to see for him to like lose his spot in the starting rotation? What would it see? Like, what would we have to see for him? He played 38 minutes tonight and was garbage for 35 of them.
Yeah, he was awful. It's a fair question. And especially because it looked like, 5 or 8 games into the season that the D'Lo Austin choice was made, right? Which meant Austin to the bench and D'Lo maintaining the starting spot.
And it has helped Austin, by the way. He's looked a lot better since he went to the bench.
Yes.
But I think he would look fine in the starting lineup without D'Lo.
Right. I don't think it's about him going to the bench specifically. I think him being separated from D'Lo has helped some, because then he can have the ball in his hands more. But then he plays with D'Lo too much for my, like, if it doesn't work so that Austin has to go to the bench, then don't play them together.
But you can't not play them together because they aren't going to play 24 minutes each.
Well, I mean, you can. Darvin said that Austin's only going to play 27 or 28 to keep him fresh. So going back to the D'Lo thing, you said you had not seen him like do much to prepare himself for the season, right? Playing off of LeBron and playing off of Austin. Excuse me. And I think this is kind of D'Lo, right? Like, at the end of last season, there was, or towards the end of last season, there was a bunch of, like, I'm not a point guard. That's not my role. I am who I am. Asking about like what he was going to improve. Like, I'm kind of fully formed as a basketball player. I'm paraphrasing, but those are things that he said towards the end of last year. And then
even tonight, right? Even tonight,
well, I was about to get to that, but yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I was about to get to that. But and then you and I talked about this on this show in the preseason. D'Lo, I mean, we basically had a show that was the self-awareness of D'Lo, right? Like him becoming a factor defensively. I told you I didn't buy it and I wanted to see it in games that count. And he's basically gone back to being the same defender that he was. And then tonight,
and I mean,
that,
like,
you can read the quote tonight, but it's more of the same. So yeah, like, am I surprised that D'Lo feels pretty comfortable being who he is? No, but do I blame him? Also, kind of not, because like D'Lo has made $200 million or thereabouts, like doing what he does and being the basketball player that he is,
Zach LaVine,
and being really good. Right? D'Lo's damn good at basketball. D'Lo is the 56th best player on planet Earth or something like that. He just has these times where it just, because he is so he doesn't have a lot of variety to his game. He doesn't have a lot of what is it called in golf? Like, like a lot of clubs in the bag, right? Like he does what he does, and if that's not going, then he's not going to use his athleticism to get into different things. He's not going to be, a great rebounder. He's a good passer. He's not going to like impact the game defensively. So if his first pitch, if his 106 mile an hour, to use your term, if his 106 mile an hour fastball is getting hit, or he's wild with it and he's walking people, D'Lo doesn't have a lot of backup plans. So
yeah,
I like it doesn't surprise me that D'Lo's like not catering his game to playing off of LeBron and Austin, because that's not what he does. And what he does, it's kind of like Russ. It's kind of like Westbrook. And in somebody, maybe it was SimCity in All Access Lakers earlier, said no more Russells on the team. Like it's very similar to Russ. Like Russ does what he does, and is Westbrook, and has been incredibly successful doing so. So you kind of understand why it's difficult for these guys to do something else.
Yeah.
That was the slowest yeah ever. The most like sigh-inducing yeah ever.
Well, I sighed.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's my thing. You mentioned that like D'Angelo Russell is like the 56th or 63rd, whatever number that you use there, best player in the world, right? Talent-wise, yes. But like over the course of my career in doing this, like one of the points that I've tried to hammer home the loudest is we can talk about a talent level of a player, but we also have to have a conversation about the impact that player has, right? Like Zach LaVine is an immensely talented basketball player. If he walks into any gym in the world, right? Even with NBA players playing there, he would be a top 5 talent just about in just about any random gym that he would even
Absolutely.
like he plays at UCLA in the off seasons, right? He walks into those pickup games in the off season, and when he walks into those games, he's going to be a top 5 talent in that gym on any given day.
Yeah, he's going to destroy everybody.
Yeah, he's an incredible basketball player, but there is legitimate question, I think, at this point in his career about his impact on winning. I think D'Angelo Russell,
I'm not sure there's a question anymore. It may have been answered.
The Bulls are literally better without him. Yeah. The same thing can be said about D'Angelo Russell, right? Immensely talented player, can pull from anywhere, an insane passer, right? Incredible at getting guys in jail. He's 6'5" with a crazy wingspan. He's just like offensively, he's damn near impossible to stop if he really has it going or your team is up 15 points. But
you just called him the Brock Purdy of point guards.
I just think he's. I mean, he clearly is a front runner. But so, his impact though on winning is very much in question. And like when he says after the game today, I do have to improve on defense, but like that's not what I do. Do you play basketball or do you not, D'Angelo?
I don't love it. I mean, he's right, but
Well, sure,
like
fine.
I don't love it.
But like,
yeah, no, I don't love it.
Aaron, like, all right, imagine if for the purpose of the show, right? Like shit, literally in what we do, right now, I've had to teach myself YouTube on the fly.
Yeah.
Whether it's backgrounds on this thing, whether it's thumbnails for YouTube, whether it's learning SEO for YouTube, all of these things.
Yes.
Over the course of my career, you know what I do? Like, you know what I'm best at? It's podcasting. It's talking to people. Yeah. I'm 37 years old. I'm teaching myself the internet. And you know why? It's because like at some point you got to adapt to the situation. In this case, it has been very apparent with the advancement of AI and all of these things. Like in order to stay alive and stay relevant in my career, I've had to add to my toolbox. I've had to deepen my bag. And the fact that like D'Angelo Russell on a team that is competing for a championship is sitting here saying like, yeah, I don't really play defense. What? That's why you've been traded by every team that you've played for. Like I am the person who, by the way, will go out of my way to contextualize D'Angelo Russell's career and say how he has gotten raw deals at various stops over the course of his career. But the reason teams won't commit to him is because of quotes like tonight, where he just says, yeah, not really what I do. Okay, cool. You know what you also don't do? You don't stick around on teams past like 3 or 4 years. You know what else you don't do really? You don't really resonate with organizations to the point where they're like going out of the way to make sure you are a part of it moving forward. I like honestly, that's a good note to move on. We're 52 minutes in. I'm going to take that as agreement. All right. Really quickly, by the time those of you who are listening on the pod feed will be doing so, there are some really fun games coming up. You have Nikola Jokic playing against a small Brooklyn team.
For the Friday games.
Yeah. So more or less than a double-double on the Sleeper app, which, again, by the way, boom, LA Lounge is the promo code that you can use. You can get up to $100 in a first deposit match from Sleeper. That is free money. That, like, if you just type that word into there, type that code into there, and they will just give you money
I do like free money
that you can turn into even more money.
I like that too.
You can follow me on there also at Anthony Irwin LA, where we can play against each other, whatever you want to do. But for the picks that I am looking at here, Nikola Jokic more or less than a double-double. That's a pretty easy one. Against the small Brooklyn team, that's a pretty easy one. Yeah. I would pretty happily say that he would do more than a double-double.
It could be rebounds or assists.
Yeah.
Or maybe he scores 0 points and has 18 rebounds and 14 assists, and you still get there.
Yeah. He might just shove like 10 people too, and that might count as a stat. Joel Embiid, if you combine his points and rebounds playing against Toronto, I would go less there.
I was going to say 47.5 is a lot.
Yeah, I would go less than 47.5. Scotty Barnes in that same game, more or less than 7.5 rebounds. I'm going to go less. I'm going to go less than that. I think in that one, Trae Young, who has been absolutely on fire.
Yeah, but what is that picture of him? Is that they've already iced him out? Is that Ice Trae already?
I think it's Ice Trae. It's Ice Trae.
Yeah. He looks like Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars.
No, he doesn't have two chins.
Yeah. He looks like the Grand Admiral Thrawn from the cartoons, the real one.
Yeah. More or less than 27.5 points for Trae Young. Easily going more. easily against Miami. I know that
He's been on
Miami
a
slows the
heater.
game down.
Yeah, he's been on a
I
heater.
know they slow the game down, and I know that they play super physical. But Trae Young has been incredible recently. He's averaging like 33 and 14 over his last 5. So I would say he continues that. Tyrese Maxey, more or less than 26.5 points. I'm going to go more. I'm going to go with more there. And
Okay.
Clint Capella, more or less than 12.5 points. That's a fun one. I like rooting for Clint Capella points. So I'm going to go more. I don't know if he's going to get it, but I just love Clint. The
So
fact, like,
if that's where you're going, may I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
I would bump up. So it looks like there's the option of Trae Young points plus assists at
Yep.
38.5.
Mhm.
So I might switch over from Trae Young's points to Trae over on his points plus assists. Because if you think Clint Capella is going to get buckets, they're all coming from Trae.
Yeah. Well, actually, Aaron, I'm glad that you mentioned that. On Sleeper, you can actually combine picks to increase your odds. So if you're going to say that you believe in Trae Young and Clint Capella in this game against Miami, you can combine those picks, and the 1.72 times money that you would be getting could increase to, like, I think that would bump from that to like 3 times your money if both of those things hit. Just something you could throw out there as an option. Again, that is the Sleeper app. The promo code for it is L8 Lounge. Go to sleeper.com/terms/referrals to see the details on these offers, but it's free money. It's free money, and it's an opportunity to play with me on there at Anthony Irwin LA. Let's get back to it. The last topic here is Rui Hachimura and the minutes that he is playing, and the role that he is playing in. And this guy went from the 4th best player on a team that made the Western Conference Finals. This guy, interestingly enough, though, was not really a part of the rotation before they went on that run where he became that important en route to that Western Conference Finals appearance. To start the season, he has dealt with injuries. He keeps getting hit in the face. Today, he got knocked over and looked like he, could have like really hurt his tailbone. He has had a tough season statistically and situationally, in terms of his body and all of that stuff. But I also think he's had a really tough situation in terms of the role that he is playing on this team. And this is where Darvin's approach to the season really kind of befuddles me, in that the point of the point of strength heading into the season was supposed to be continuity, was supposed to be building off of last year's playoff run, was supposed to be like, the Lakers recommitted to Rui Hachimura to the tune of what, 4 years, $57 million or something like that. I think I have that right. Maybe
I think
63.
it's more than that, yeah. But
Yeah, so the Lakers, like, themselves as an organization, committed to this guy, and yet for some reason his role within the offense, the amount of minutes that he gets even when he is healthy, is all over the map. I forgot to prep myself an actual tinfoil hat to wear while I make this point tonight. But the other night when LeBron James mentioned how uh minutes and rotations isn't his call, in the same breath, he mentions Rui Hachimura's like kind of fluctuating role in minutes and all of that stuff. I think he's kind of frustrated with this guy that he worked out with in the offseason being kind of yanked around the rotation. Um, I think Rui has some issues to his game. Defensively, he needs to be better, more consistently. Uh, the shooting, the catch and shooting stuff is inconsistent as well. But given the way that the Lakers committed to him, and given the tone that they set coming into the season, I thought that this guy was going to be a mainstay of this rotation, and that hasn't been the case. Honestly, Aaron, I'm just asking why. Like, are you
no, I don't
seeing
have
the
a good
same
I
stuff
don't
that
have a
I'm
good
seeing?
answer for you. He's had a weird season.
Yeah.
And I don't have a good answer for you. He's like been beat up physically, so his availability has been in and out, and he hasn't been particularly good when he's played. I do think he's a better player than that. I do not think he's the player that we saw in the playoffs last year.
No, that guy shot 50% from
yeah.
three.
Yeah, I mean, like, so last year in the playoffs, it was LeBron, AD, and Austin. And then after that, like Rui, D'Lo, and Vando kind of all took turns being the next best guy. And so I do think it was fair to expect that again from Rui. He didn't produce that ever in life before the playoffs last year. But I think Rui's a good player. He's just had like a very strange and up and down and like fits and starts kind of season. And so I don't think trust is not the right word, but I don't know that Darvin has full confidence in him for all of those reasons. Rui hasn't played that well and he's been in and out of the lineup. And so Rui's in an interesting place because excuse me, because the Lakers kind of loaded up on wings in the offseason, Torian and Cam Reddish and Rui, maybe like Rui's a 3-4-ish. But then there's also Jackson and Christian Wood. And so when everybody is healthy, there isn't enough time for everybody. And it feels like the last couple games that Darvin has decided. I mean, look, Jackson Hayes played today and was awful. Neither he nor Christian Wood played more than a minute yesterday or Wednesday as you listen to this. So I do think we may start to see a little bit more of Rui as a backup center, which he did in the playoffs, which he guarded Joker. Like nobody is capable of guarding Joker. He was okay. LeBron did some. He was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think Rui's going to start to see some more minutes as a backup five. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Rui and AD and LeBron together, because I think we're going to start to see Rui as more, not minute for minute, but I do think we're going to start to see Rui as play a good portion of his minutes at the backup five, or maybe sometimes with LeBron where one of them's the 4, one of them is the 5, and it's kind of interchangeable. I don't think Rui's going to play all of his minutes without AD on the floor, but it feels like Darvin is losing trust in Jackson and Christian Wood. So I think that more of Rui's minutes are going to come less so on the wing, and I don't like him on the wing anyway, but I think less of them are going to come on the wing and more of them are going to come as just like kind of a straight backup 5.
I wouldn't ditch the notion of Rui on the wing, personally. I understand the questions, right? He doesn't move his feet well enough to keep up with your typical wing. And that is certainly something like, look, the reason, honestly, like if somebody was to just ask me, right, and this is the kind of conversation I would have like with my dad, right, where like my dad will just ask me stuff, and if I'm here on the pod, I have to say stuff in an entertaining way, and I have to touch on all of these various things, and my takes have to go from 30 seconds long to 5 minutes long, right?
Yeah.
Although here we are an hour in, so I guess I could have done more often the 30-second version of some of these responses.
A lot of it's my fault too.
But if somebody was to ask me, like, why doesn't Rui get more minutes? It's because he doesn't defend wings very well.
Right. And then the question is, if he's going to be there, like, then the answer is LeBron, and like that's not an answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if he is on the court with LeBron, he's going to be guarding the wing. The problem is that wing might light him on fire.
Right. So then the answer is like, this ain't working. So what's the other option? LeBron? Yeah. Well, we don't want you doing that.
So if I was to isolate like an explanation and whittle it down, that's where I would arrive. But that said, like, he has been in and out of the rotation, and like with everybody else, they're given opportunity after opportunity to prove that they should stay in the rotation. So the fact that Rui is just like casually benched all the time doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Again, because the Lakers organizationally committed to him. And this is where, like, you guys know that I'm a Dodgers fan. Dodgers just got Yamamoto. Shouts to that.
Who?
And
I mean, to
I'm
be
telling
fair,
you,
Rui
man,
played 33 minutes tonight.
he did, yeah. But like he's also had games where he's played like 13 and 8 and whatever minute. Like he's had some wild fluctuation in his minutes allocation this season.
Everybody but LeBron and AD have.
Yeah, but like, well, but especially him. And the
Yeah, he played
reason with
15.
him,
He played
it's
15 last night. Yeah. But I
yeah,
mean, LeBron wasn't available tonight, so yeah.
the reason with him that is more it's more notable is that like when an organization commits to a guy like that, you would think that they would be more in lockstep. Like it is a lot of times something that the Dodgers get knocked for is that like this notion that Dave Roberts has decisions made for him by the front office, and like
Baseball's
it's a give and
stupid.
take.
Baseball's stupid. I don't like baseball.
I
Baseball's
get it.
stupid.
You're an A's fan. I would hate the sport too.
Not anymore.
We're an A's fan. I would hate the sport too.
I'm an Oakland A's fan.
Yeah. No, I know. That's why I said I would not like the sport anymore because you just lost your team.
So wait, are you? So here's what I will tell you that the front office is not telling Darvin who to play. Who Darvin plays?
No, I'm well, sure, but I do think that there should be, and there is, right? Like they aren't telling him who to play, but they for sure have conversations. Like, hey, like why?
Yes.
Why is
yes? People do have the front office and the coaching staff have conversations. Yes.
Yeah, and so like in this case, like with the Dodgers, right? Their front office and their analytics department will like I wouldn't go so far as to say that they dictate stuff. And the reason I can say this, by the way, I covered the Dodgers for a little bit. Like I know some of this stuff too. And the way that the Dodgers operate, basically understand Caston is that like they want Andrew Friedman to have his fingers in every aspect of the organization. He has a whole bunch of people that he entrusts, and that analytics department does tell like the pitching staff who should be throwing which pitch more often and all that stuff. And with the Lakers here, I also think that like Jeannie Buss entrusts Rob Pelinka to the extent that she wants his fingertips in every aspect of the organization. She wants him to talk with the scouting department to see where they're looking and see, you know, I'm sure the scouting department is wondering, minus the injury aspect of it, it makes it tough. But like if Jalen Hood-Schifino was healthy and was getting DNPs every night, I'm sure the scouting department and the front office would go to the coaching staff and be like, hey, like, is he better served to just go play in the G League, right? And like this is by the way, like Aaron, your response to this, right, is going to be this is how all good organizations operate, right? Like all good organizations have a ton of communication between front office and head coach. That's why things felt like such a disaster when Magic Johnson, the only time he was talking to Luke Walton was to scream at him in his office to say how much he sucks at coaching basketball.
I've never seen Magic Johnson dribble with his left hand.
He makes points with his left hand.
I've never seen him dribble with his left hand. That's how I feel about his presidential tenure.
So
and his playing career.
Like, this is where I do kind of wish that the front office and the coaching staff was a little bit more in lockstep, where the front office might occasionally go like, hey, like, can we just make sure that guy gets like, you know, at least 20 minutes every game? At least you feel that way about Taurean Prince. Can we just make sure like Rui's making 3 times more money than Taurean Prince this year? Can we just make sure that guy gets his minutes? Because I just think he's a more talented basketball player than Taurean Prince, and I want more talent on the court.
So, but do you think that Rui fits that group better? Like what is needed in the group? I think so. That's part of it. And I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying like there's more to it than just who's better at basketball, because I do think that Rui is better at basketball than
we just talked about impact.
No, but also coaches don't think of it as let me just only get my best 5 guys out there. It's let me get my best 5-man group who can play off of each other and complement each other. And amplify each other's strengths and minimize each other's weaknesses, etc. So, I mean, and some of it is based on necessity, right? Because like as we just said, if you go to the starting lineup to start the season and just put Rui in for Torian, then that means LeBron is guarding threes, and no, it's just a non-starter, right? So
I
the
I
group
would
has
still
to the
have
group has to
I
make
would still
sense.
have Rui guarding threes, and I would just tell him
But
like,
wouldn't you
hey,
rather have
just
Torian guarding threes?
man, the guys that
Torian's not like Torian is not like Gary Payton or Scottie Pippen, but he's better than Rui at that
I
task.
don't.
At guarding perimeter players.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But like I've also seen him blown by plenty this year, you
Of
know.
course,
I
everybody gets blown by, and Ant was giving him the
No, but
work
like
today.
more than usual. Like more than
Sure, but
somebody
if
who was
Rui is the other,
like tangibly better than
okay, so
Rui.
then the conversation goes to, and this is what I would do. I would go back to Vando. I would start D'Lo, Austin, Vando, LeBron, and AD. We saw that
Well,
work for large stretches
yeah.
down the stretch and in the playoffs. Vando had his complications in the playoffs, as did D'Lo sometimes. But because Vando has not been physically available and still to me doesn't look quite right, like then the choice becomes Prince or Rui. And for me, I would go with Prince because I just don't want LeBron ever guarding threes. That's just too much.
I would all right. So if you're talking about starting him, I would start Rui because like the problem that the Lakers are having is that he's playing in second units and he's playing in second units as a wing. And or like to this point, now they're playing him more as like a backup center, but to this point in the season, he's been playing backup minutes as a wing, which means that he isn't always playing with AD. And if he's getting blown by the wings that he is guarding, then there's nobody back there to help with that. And if he is starting and he is in and behind him, he has LeBron and AD, that mitigates some of the issue of him not being able to stay in front of wings. The other thing too is I think the Lakers, in terms of point of attack defense, like where types of players are really giving the Lakers problems, that's happening with like point guards who are piercing the defense because D'Angelo Russell can't stay in front of anybody, because Austin Reaves has had issues there. And because Jared Vanderbilt has been hurt this year, he hasn't been able to help in that regard. And the only guy that you can reliably have in that spot is Cam Reddish, because Max Christie hasn't earned the trust of the coaching staff. And so, like, I haven't really had as big of a problem with guys blowing by Reaves from the wing spot as I've had with guys blowing by every guard that the Lakers have playing defense. And in that case, Rui's defense doesn't concern me nearly as much. What I do think the Lakers could really benefit from with Rui, like the Lakers have had rebounding issues all year. He's physical as hell, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he would help with that. And with Prince has shot the ball better lately. I would honestly like to see more combinations of Prince and Rui out there at the same time, where Prince is basically operating as your shooting guard. Um, but if Darvin is going to, as soon as Gabe gets healthy, and now that he is healthy, if he's going to have two of Gabe, D'Lo, and Austin on the court at the same time, that severely limits your wing options, and that brings us full circle. Look at me being okay at my job, to
Okay.
where we started this whole conversation, in that, again, the identity from the in-season tournament games to now is too tangibly different. And if the Lakers are going to turn things around, I think they need to get back to the wing-based identity that had them ripping off wins, not just ripping off wins, Aaron, but beating the shit out of teams. Like, it's one thing, like you mentioned, all right, yeah, the talent of the caliber of teams that they were playing in that in-season tournament was lesser than they have played in your typical regular season game. Even if I am to grant that, I would say, though, that they beat the Pelicans by 40 They beat the Indiana Pacers going away. They beat the Phoenix Suns, even if they were shorthanded. I think they were like confidently and comfortably well ahead of them for the vast majority of the games that they have played in that in-season tournament as well. So, like, not only were they playing lesser opponents, but they were beating the crap out of those lesser opponents. And I think it's because when you play that number of wings, that amount of wings, you can play a suffocating style of defense that by the end of the game, it's kind of like playing a football team that runs the ball really well, right? It's like what we see with your Niners, right? Where, yeah, sure, games look like a certain way. The team that they're playing against has like a little pep in their step at the beginning of the game. And then by the end of the game, where they have tried to tackle Christian McCaffrey all game, or they've tried to tackle Debo coming around the corner all game, and it's just like productive play after productive play after productive play, and then defensively, it's just hard hit after hard hit after hard hit. By the end of these games, that team is just like, this sucks. Can this just be over already?
Yeah, it's like
and
it's the body blows in boxing.
Yeah, and dude, I used to box, man. There was no boxer. I have actually been knocked out by way of body blow before. And there is no worse feeling in sports than that, than just losing your legs. Like when you play a good body blow boxer, you start with your hands up here, right? Your hands are up here and the focus is on protecting your face. By the time you get to like round 7 with a good body blow boxer, you literally can't, like, you can't keep her, because your body is literally telling you, hey, you keep getting hit here.
My kidneys hurt.
Like, you're gonna be pissing blood for a week. Like,
my liver hurts, and it's not from the Hennessy.
Can you bring your elbows down just a little bit? And then what happens once those hands drop, and it's over. And I think and like that is the type of and by the way, we saw these Lakers succeed that way, where poor Miami in game 6 of the NBA finals were down by 40 in that game because it was body blow after body blow. Like you had Alex Caruso playing crazy physical defense on the perimeter. You had Kentavious Caldwell-Pope
Kuz and KCP and DG.
Yeah, you had Dwight Howard beating the shit out of Bam. You had like it was just everybody just playing that type of and again, we saw it in the in-season tournament. And we saw by the end of those games, those teams just like those hands go from up here to here, or they just quit. In the case of the Pelicans, they just freaking quit.
the Pelicans wanted the standing 8. Like, can we just be done with this?
Yeah, and look,
Zion wanted to go. Zion had to go eat some. Zion had to go.
Rude, I'm telling you, the only reason I talk about this is because like it's analogous to the situation. I promise, I am not Uncle Rico. Like, I have no desire to be an athlete anymore. Like, but when I say all of these things, because like anybody who has watched these sports can relate to that, right? And with the team that Darvin has had built for him, the identity is screaming at him to just grab it and run with it. And I think he's been very reluctant to run with it. So much so that in two prior episodes, while the Lakers were on that run in the in-season tournament, I asked Jovan Buha, I asked Dan Wojcicki, how likely do they feel it is that the Lakers are actually going to run with this? Because I had serious questions about it. And the first opportunity that the Lakers had coming off of that in-season tournament success, they moved away from that identity. And that to me, when we talk about like issues and nitpicking with Darvin Ham, to me, that is the fundamental issue. And until that gets addressed or fixed or corrected or whatever, the Lakers are always going to have a bit of a ceiling on what they're capable of in regular season games. Mm-hmm. No, I don't want Kevin Porter Jr. and I don't want
I didn't even want to talk about that, but no.
All right. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge and this week's episodes of the Lakers Lounge. No happy hour tomorrow, as it is a holiday weekend and my daughter is home from school. And you do not want to, what you do not need is for me to try to host a podcast while I'm concerned about both of my children in the other room. That
You
would
gonna be on
not
the
go
penalty
very
kill
well.
with his wife going out to work? You gonna be on the penalty kill?
She works like a half of a day, but by
Oh
the
no, you
time
on a
like she
penalty
gets
kill?
back
Oh
in,
no, 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 no,
yeah,
no,
I'm
no.
I'm I'm I'm
2-on-1.
playing.
No, you on a penalty kill?
Yeah.
Nope.
You know how most 2-on-1
You're
goes
down
in
a
the
man in
NBA? The
soccer.
one defender just like steps out of the way, and that is
Yeah,
what I'm
you're
doing
no,
tomorrow.
no,
I'm
no, 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 no.
stepping out of the way to make sure I don't pick up an M1. But before we get out of here, I do want to say from the absolute bottom of my heart how grateful I am for the way that you guys continue to support us, whether it's here on in the Lakers Lounge, whether it's with All Access Lakers, whether like whatever it's Substack, which for has been growing recently too. Whatever it is that we ask of you guys continue to show out in really inspiring ways, and it makes us want to continue to be better versions of ourselves for you. So as we as we head into this holiday weekend, please be safe, enjoy your family, and on the other side of it, we will get together again. For those of you who celebrate other holidays this season, do the same. It is a great time of the year. It is a tough time of the year. So if you're going through it, I'm right there with you. I lost some family members this year that are not going to be sitting at the Christmas dinner table this year that we are really going to miss. So if you need a hug, I'm here to give you one. But no, I cannot thank you enough for the amount of support that you've given us. I love you all a ton, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul. This has been the Lakers Lounge, and I love you guys.